Welcome back to another episode of the Relevant Recruiter Show. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by a client and friend of mine, Candice Johnston from Higher House Recruiting. Candice went through my program a couple years ago, and she's going to share her success of going through the program. And I'm really excited to talk to her just because it's been a couple years since she's been through the program and just hear about the results. But Candice is the founder of Higher House Recruiting. Higher House is a boutique recruiting agency focused on bringing top millennial talent to modern companies that are committed to engaging and retaining them through their culture. Candice's mission, along with the Higher House, is to revolutionize hiring by changing the way companies and candidates connect and interact through a personalized human connection. Candice, thank you so much for hanging out with me today here on the show.
I'm so nervous.
Don't be nervous. We're going to have a lot of fun here. And looking forward to rocking with you. So Candice, just to kind of give us a little background. I mean, how did you get started off in the recruiting industry?
Okay, so prior to starting this business, and I'm sorry if you guys can hear, my husband is in a meeting. So right now we have this weird work from home situation. So if you guys can hear him, I apologize. But so getting into recruiting, a few years ago, I was at a company that I was with for about 7 years. I started there as a finance manager. It was a startup company, which is like kind of really like my place where I fit is in these early stage companies. I'm like building some early value, like really hands-on type thing. So I was doing that for a while. I started there as their finance manager. That's my background, accounting and finance. And then, over the years was promoted to a director of finance. We went through a PE sale and, a couple of other changes within the organization. I was one of the first hires there, and I knew this company inside and out. I knew all of the people. I helped hire all of the people. I was the go-to person, right, all the time. And we had this new CEO, and he says, Candice, you're in the wrong position. You need to be our VP of people. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, I agree. That's where I belong. I belong with the people, like representing the people, there for the people. I think that's a good place for me. So I did that for a few years, and I loved it. But like year 7, it was just time to do something different. So I started looking for jobs. Like everybody, I hit the job boards and, disappointment after disappointment. This is a perfect job for me. This person's telling me I'm not qualified. I'm overqualified. But, all the while, like nobody's speaking to me, right? What's telling me these things? An automated service where I put my resume through an automated job board and then I get this automated response back. And it's just like so frustrating, where I'm like, I know what I'm capable of and I know I can come to your company and bring a lot of value, but you're not even having a conversation with me to see what I can bring you. And beyond that, when you do get an interview, you log on and you're talking to a screen. There's not even a person on the other end. There's a screen asking you questions and giving you, 90 seconds to prep your answer and tell it to the screen. And those I'd be like, bye. Because like I'm here, I've shown up, I put my makeup on, I got ready, like I showed up for you, you can show up for me. Like this is a two-way street here. And then the more, I was looking for jobs, the more I just realized that this hiring system is completely broken. And I told myself I was going to be the one to fix it. So
love it.
I jumped in and I started Higher House Recruiting, like with really big dreams, and then got in and, where it went from there. Like It was like the first 6 months, I think we did as well as maybe a little bit better. I don't know. But like, I think we did what we were supposed to do in the first 6 months. I was, but like we hit that point, like around where I met you, where like it was like, do I do this with Donnie or do I say screw it, I'm done? You know what I mean? But that's like that's how I got into recruiting. It's like I saw this major problem and I knew that I know that we can fix it. Like I know what is missing from the hiring process and I am committed and motivated to fix it. And
I love that. I love to hear your why and your passion. You didn't just start it to like, hey, start a business, but you're really starting this to really try to find and fill a void in the market, trying to improve the hiring process for the companies. Tell us a little bit about your journey. Like once you decided, I'm stepping out, I'm doing it on my own. Like, and you mentioned those first 6 months were like, whoa, like what were some of the biggest challenges you were going through?
I mean, a lot, like there was both business challenges and personal challenges working together for me. Like I had a newborn, I had a 2.5-year-old. Like, okay, these are challenges right there. And that's another reason I wanted to go off and do my own thing because I wanted to own my own life. You know,
Yep.
like I know that I'm going to put in the work, but like I have to also represent and be a mom and do things for my family, but I can't do that when somebody else owns my time.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had all of these things working together, right? I got in, I made a couple of placements through people that I already knew, people I had worked with in the past, executives who had gone to companies and said, sure, Candice, like I would love for you to do our hiring, you know,
Right.
like had relationships along the way. But, you know, beyond that, I really did struggle with a few things. One, business development, right? Like, so beyond the people that I already know, who already know me, who I've built their trust, like who's going to hire me? Like people don't, they have no reason to hire me and pay me a boatload of money because we all know recruiting is very expensive, right? It's not like $100 here.
Right.
That was one problem I had. You know, the other problem I had with personal stuff is, you know, all about this. My husband and I built our dream home, you know, the start of our dream home. And then suddenly I stopped getting paid. Right. So like, it only goes so long. And we had to make that change. Like we sold our home so that I can continue to support our business without having to go out and raise a bunch of money. So it's self-funded. You know, we had that challenge. My time, you know, you're a startup and you have to grind, right? Like if you're in the grind, it's not going to take off. And I knew I needed to do that. But like I said, I'm a mom, I have a newborn, I have a 2.5-year-old, I got preschool, I have all of these things like pulling me in different directions. And then I mean, I could talk so much about how you came in and helped me create a solution, but like when you met me, I think one time you and I were having a conversation and I was so frustrated and I said, you know, like, I'm just like, I don't have 1 minute to think about what's going on in my life. Like I cannot, you know, I can't get out of the weeds, right? Like I need a day off, but if I take a day off, like who's hitting the phone all day, which is like a nightmare that recruiters go through, right?
Yep.
And, you know, I met you and one day we were meeting and I was really frustrated and you're like, Candice, tomorrow morning, you're going to take half the day in the morning and you're going to go to a pond and feed some effing ducks. Think about work because we've implemented stuff and your business is running and you're not there. And you know, that's when I started to really see the light. But those were my challenges. And I think they're the challenges that a lot of new business owners face, you know, time and business development. And you know, you've got the product, you know, you got the goods, but like, who are you selling it to?
Yeah. Well, I think you've got some normal challenges and I think you've got some abnormal challenges too. I think that, you know, in kudos to you. I mean, being a mom with two little ones, 2 toddlers, a baby and a toddler, you know, I mean, that's huge in itself. You know, throw on owning a business, throw on moving and sacrificing. Like, I think it's just amazing what you were willing to do. And I know we're going to get to it, but where you're at now, I know it's been all worth it, but it's inspiring. And yeah, I remember a lot of the overwhelm that you were going through that time, but, you know, being able to push through. I mean, there's so many people that struggle with, you know, pushing through those things or creating or using that as an excuse and use that as something to overcome, you know, and push through.
Yes, I was for a long time, right? Those first months when we met, I was full of excuses.
Right.
And then you know, with your help and the program and giving me the right tools, like I learned to get out of my own way. Like if I believe in myself and I do, then I don't have anything to prove to anybody. Nobody cares about me, right? You're like, Candice, looking at you, nobody really cares.
Right.
But, you know, and I've taken that with me on my journey.
Now, I know, you know, kind of going into your market a little bit, I know one of the things we talked about and you really were focused on is like, you weren't really niched in terms of, hey, I'm doing oil and gas or I'm doing accounting and finance. I'm doing, you know, you had this real big vision of like, I want to help modern companies. I want to help startup companies that are looking to, you know, bring in a new culture. I mean, what have you seen from that? Like, what inspired you to go down that route there?
The biggest inspiration was like to focus on millennials, and you know, we place everybody, right? But like focus on millennials, and we talk about millennials a lot because it's a problem, right? We're the largest generation in the workforce. I think that we're very, very misunderstood. You know, we're entitled, we're all of these other things. We're lazy, we don't want to work, and you know, we want things, and like really, that's not it at all, right? Like, we want somebody to have a conversation with us and hear us out and listen to what our needs are. And instead of just saying, oh, you need to work remote 3 days a week, bye. You know, like if they're communicate with certain people. So it's like, we know how to communicate with this group of people because that's who we are. We know millennials, we know what they're looking for, we know what they want, we know how to communicate with them, but most importantly, we know where to communicate with them. And that's really the game changer there. You know, it's like knowing where to find them and knowing how to approach them and knowing what needs that they need satisfied, and knowing that you're going to have to represent these people and go to bat for what they want if they're going to get the job.
Right.
You know, so much now since things have changed with people working remote, but 2 years ago, if you went in and you said, yeah, I have this really awesome person for you, they're a rock star, they can do this, they can do that, but they're remote, it was never going to happen. And I'm sure, I think that's silly. You think that's silly. A lot of people think that's silly, but for the employer, like if they don't see you, then they're not in control of your time.
Right.
And that's just something like, one of the things, especially now, like through COVID and all of these changes, and now working through going back to work is another thing that we've been facing a lot. Like, yeah, they're remote right now, but they're going back to the office. And it's not necessarily like a no from the candidate. It's just really knowing how to have the conversation. And, instead of saying like, yeah, they're going back to the office, the end, which is what recruiters do. We actually have a conversation and we talk through it. This is what phase 1 looks like. This is what they want to do for phase 2. And, I know I'm talking a lot, giving a lot of information, but long story short, it's coming to them with the information, with the facts, with the truth.
Right.
And that's the secret sauce, is the truth with working with this generation.
Right. What are you seeing specifically with your audience now? Because obviously when you look at social media, there's a lot of different opinions, and it looks like a lot of companies are forced to go work from home. But now that everything's starting to shift and we're opening back up a little bit, are you seeing, just in what's happening in your world with your clients, are you seeing them start to ease up and now a little bit more on that work from home and finding more hybrid? Or?
Oh yeah, definitely. So my clients like generally are in, marketing tech, fintech. There's always like this technical element, right, to what they do, or they're a tech company. I do have some franchise groups as well, but like, a franchise group who's a salon or who's one of them's a tobacco shop. Like these are on-site businesses.
Right.
So you have to be working on site, but for the others, they are starting to go back, and what they're doing is going back in phases and saying, okay, phase 1 starts August, the 1st of August, and phase 1, we're going back and it's completely voluntary, and then see what response they get, who comes back. Because if you're, from my clients have done the surveys, we've been talking to their people and just finding out like, what do you want? And I know from my experience, when I'm going out and recruiting, I'm finding people for certain jobs that are saying, if it's not remote, then I'm not even interested in the conversation, because I will not give up what I have right now, even if I'm miserable. Like I'm not remote. Or, we have new fears now. We have new things to get over with our candidates that I'm finding since we've been in a global pandemic. Like, hey, Donnie, like I got this really awesome job for you. It offers this, this, and that, unlimited vacation, fully paid healthcare. But then Donnie says, oh, hold on, Candice, pump the brakes, because if this job is not remote, I can't take it, because what if school shuts down in the fall? We have new things we have to fear as a generation, as millennials. We have the small kids.
Right.
When everything got shut down last year, we had to homeschool our kids, and a lot of my kids go to private school, almost intentionally, because I couldn't. What was I going to do? Give up my business and give up my job so I can be a teacher this year? Yeah. We've gone every single day, and I feel so lucky for that. But I have friends who had to quit their job, B, like missed out on promotions, had to go part-time, all of these things, because now we have to teach our kids. And if we are not like fully functioning come the fall, when school goes back in, we're going to have all of these parents at home again trying to homeschool their kids. And that makes people resistant to leave their current jobs, because, my boss is already on board. Donnie's already on board. They know about my kid's situation. They know about my school situation. They trust me. I've been there for 3 years and it's all good. But now going into a new organization come August, September, if school gets shut down or flu season comes around and school gets shut down, I have a new boss. And are they going to tell me to kick rocks?
Right.
Like
yeah.
There's new hurdles with our new.
That makes sense. Is it, I mean, that's obviously I think the biggest one right there is obviously the work from home has now been like, hey, put it on the platter. Have you noticed any other trends though? You've mentioned obviously the fear of the millennials and the kids going back to school. Is there anything else that you're kind of seeing, or is that pretty much where most people's energy is going right now?
I mean, the work from home is huge.
Yep.
Is that people like autonomy, and another thing that I'm seeing is a lot of people want contracts. Like, why do I need to be an employee? Like, you're hiring me for a specific expertise. Like, you're hiring me to be, a user experience architect.
Huh.
I could be a user experience architect for 10 companies at once and manage the workload. I hear that a lot. Like,
Right.
I think that the world is changing, right?
Yep.
Because we're hiring people for specific services. Like,
Right.
they can offer that service as a contractor they want to, and they don't want to be tied to one company. So I've been finding that but the work from home thing like trumps every other hurdle. If a job is remote, you're getting it filled faster. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's excellent. Excellent feedback there. Kind of transitioning to some of the work that we did together, you've kind of touched on it a little bit before with kind of business development and you having to grind in order to keep that going. That was kind of the story you were telling. And I know you were in other programs and stuff before, but, what would you say your overall situation was before we started working together?
Lots of frustration. I was frustrated. I had, we started working together in February. It was right around Valentine's Day. I remember that. And prior to that, like, I hadn't made a placement since November.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm sorry. It was December. But it wasn't just that I hadn't made a placement. It was like, I was, the well was dry. There was
Right.
no work on. So I would go to work every day. I didn't stop working. I still worked every single day, and I worked on my business.
Mm-hmm.
I was working on the business. Like, I have these marketing ideas and then told myself 100 times, how stupid they are and don't do that. And people will think it's weird and like all this other stuff. Right. So, that's really where I was before we started working together, just like super frustrated, not knowing what to do next.
Right. And everything you were doing from a business development standpoint at that point was pretty much just through cold calling and some of the traditional things that were being taught out there, right?
To be honest, no, because the cold calling, that's the way that I was trained to do it, both on the client side and the candidate side. But after doing it for a few weeks, I was like, this is not happening. There's no way I'm going to continue to cold call people, because I'm sitting here preaching that I work with millennials, and you do not cold call a millennial. Right?
Yep. You got to have the modern approach.
There's other ways to reach people, because like the world has changed. You don't need to call somebody to get in front of them. It does, I'm not saying that it doesn't work,
right?
But that, the people that you're calling have also evolved, and they don't want you calling them, especially if I'm calling, a startup entrepreneurial company who is, spread so thin already. I call the CEO, and now he hates me.
Mm-hmm.
Not relieved. Oh, wow, this recruiter called me and answered my prayers. No, they're like, why are you calling me?
Right.
Like, so, I didn't do a whole bunch of cold calling. I was letting it happen organically, and it was, but just not at the speed that I wanted it to. And even more so, there was a lot of disrespect towards me. Like before, people would say, oh, so-and-so referred me to you, and like they want me to call you and see what you can do for me and this and that and what your price is. And so I would tell them, like, this is what it costs and this and that, and they would laugh. You think I'm going to pay you 20%? You think I'm going to pay you 25%? I don't value recruiting that much. Think like people would say that. And I know that a lot of people don't value what recruiting really is, and it is really expensive, but because that's what it's worth.
Right.
Not finding these people on your own. And if you're sitting here telling me that, oh yeah, it's not worth that, then you're probably also not calculating the cost of your vacancy.
Right.
And I can see it's far exceeding what you're going to pay me.
Right.
Like, I didn't have the nerve to say that to people back then, but I'll say it now.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. What do you think, doesn't have to be anything from the program or specific to actually what you thought you were getting into the program. I mean, but what do you think was the biggest challenge you overcame while we were working together?
Probably my confidence, definitely. Like self-doubt, just like, why would I write that? Nobody wants to hear nobody wants to read something I write. Oh, why would I say that? Nobody cares what I say. But I care what I say. And I think that the things that I say are real and
Right.
they're real and they're helpful to a lot of people. Um, and I think that's something, the biggest thing that you helped me to overcome was just like, Candice, like, you know what you're doing, you know what you want to do. Stop telling yourself that, stop being your own worst enemy and just get
Right.
out there and let the market. And, I would always do these things before, right? I would always say, but, I'm not ready yet. Like, oh, Johnny, I'll do that. But like, I'm just not ready yet. Like, we're not there yet. Like, I would
Right.
always, just like, when you talk to me about doing this, I picked the last date that you gave me. Right?
Yep.
Like, so, I mean, that's what I was doing was like, Donnie, we're not there yet. No, I can't do that. It's not time yet. But like, that was my own self-doubt, like putting things off. And I don't do that anymore. Now it's like, okay, who cares if somebody doesn't like it? I'm not here to please people. I'm here to help people.
Right.
And if I have something that I can share that is going to be helpful to people, and somebody's going to find value in it, then I'm definitely going to share it. I'm not going to fear what other people are going to think of me. And like, I preach that all day to candidates and my friends, like, who gives a crap what anybody thinks of you? Like,
Right.
who cares? Go do you and be you. And whoever doesn't like it, it doesn't matter,
Right.
and something that's a huge thing that I've carried with me since the program.
I love it. I love it. And we, it's fun to be able to work with you and experience that with you and help and see you, watch you transform and overcome a lot of those things and make those breakthroughs, because ultimately a lot of that's just getting out of our own way is when our first level of success starts to really happen, and you were able to kind of come in, you had your ideas. I saw it all in you, and through us working together, you busted through, and made some serious up levels in such a short amount of time. Let's fast forward now. You're 2 years out of the program.
Yeah.
And we were talking a little bit beforehand, and you were saying like now, and this is what, just for those that are listening, that this is what my best clients do is they take what I teach, my foundations, my methodology, and then they really go and make it their own. And so I'm really curious, what is it that you're doing now, from the program that's still really effective, and how have you tailored it to suit your style?
Okay. So yeah, I mean, the tools that you taught me, the stuff that you gave me, I tap in still, I log in.
Yep.
Like, every couple of weeks I log in and I watch your videos and I give myself a refresher on certain things. And I see like what's new, because I know that you update regularly. So I'm always going saying like, okay, well, what's Donnie doing with his people this year? I'm gonna get all the value that I can out of this relationship.
Absolutely.
So everything that you taught me, I have most of it still implemented. However, what I have done, because my business strategy is, I think, a little bit unique in the industry, is I've taken all of the tools that you have shown me and I have repurposed them and I've tinkered with them to make them match my business strategy. So like the digital strategy was great, right? Like when you taught me that, like, okay, this is my digital strategy. I mean, I felt so cool, dude. Like I stuff that was like top secret, and would talk to other recruiters and I'm like, oh, you're not doing that? You really need to talk to Donnie, like I felt better. So I took all of those tools and everything that you had given me and that you have taught me, and I've used them in a different way, and I've added some new stuff, and there's only one tool that I no longer use, and I just discontinued it in January, and it was because I was doing something else that was the place of it, was kind of like hitting it twice, and I just didn't need to be doing that. But like everything you taught me, I have repurposed it since, more towards candidates than to clients. So like I still work on my business development, but like now I'm kind of going back to that place where I'm letting it happen organically, because my business strategy focuses on candidate first.
Right.
So I mean, able to expand our reach, and the tools that you've given me, I mean, will certainly allow me to do that.
I love it. So you said before, 6 months in, couple placements, there's nothing in the pipeline. We start working together. At that time, it's mainly you. I know your sister was supporting as well. Who do you have working for you now? Tell us about the team. We're 2 years later now.
Okay, so right now I have Aubrey Rhodes. She is a headhunter. Previously, she was working at not investment banking, I'm sorry, a portfolio company. She was working in operations for a while. And then her last few years, she was in HR. And she's also my best friend since I was 8 years old.
Nice.
And, we're very like-minded and, we work really well together. We understand each other. We can have each other's backs. Like, we work very, very well together and we have that trust between
Right.
she is kick ass. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Yeah. Go ahead.
You knew that I was going to, right?
Yeah, of course.
She is so thorough. She's so amazing with the candidates. Like her husband told me, like, Candice, they're her best friends. Like she makes best friends with them. I'm like, I know she does. And then she's awesome. She's a great recruiter. And then I have Heidi Glenn, who just joined us not even 2 weeks ago.
Nice.
She's still getting her feet wet and getting her up and trained. But she's doing really well. She did this previously. She recruited talent for experiential marketing, had her own agency, and for 11 years. And, events went away and COVID wiped her out and it sucked and it wasn't fair. And then she spent the last year looking for jobs and people telling her she's not experienced or, you don't have this and you don't have that. And she's like, I'm an entrepreneur. Like I did all of this stuff for myself. What makes you think I can be your employee? And when her and I met, it was like, it was like fate to have met her.
Right.
You
saw the potential. You're smart. You're smart.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? Like, no, I'm not going to help you get a job, but I'm going to hire you to work with me.
Yep.
So that's been working out really well. I also brought on somebody to do some marketing for us. He's a contractor, working part-time, but he's building some Facebook marketing stuff for us.
Nice.
A lot of stuff that you had shown me in your program, but I'm so working deeply in the business.
Yep.
But so I haven't really been able to do it, although I've wanted to so bad.
Yep.
So now I'm able to bring somebody on to, take what you've shown me and continue to implement beyond what I'm able to do on my own.
And I think that's super smart. And that's, again, what my best clients do is they'll go through the program. They now you're working the strategy. You're working the strategy. You go to the Facebook contractor, tell him, here's what I want done, rather than hiring a Facebook contractor and him guiding you down a path. I absolutely love it. And I think what's that?
Best part is that it's my strategy, like that I actually know what I'm doing to be able to say, no, I don't want that.
Yeah.
Like I want this because now I understand it.
Yeah. No, I think that's the critical component there is exactly that. I mean, because if not, you're just going to get yourself into spending a bunch of money working with somebody that doesn't, most people don't understand recruiting. They don't understand the two sides of it. They don't understand marketing to a client versus a candidate, and, technically with the Facebook ads contractor, they'll be good technically, but probably not great with understanding the industry. So I think it's so important that you're doing it that way. And those for those of you that are listening, I mean, it's got to be inspiration hearing Candice's story. The fact that, mom with 2 kids, barely making it into 2 years later, she's built herself a team around her, with whatever way you're comfortable, Candice. I mean, what are the actual results? I mean, in terms of percentage increase in revenue or dollar amount of revenue, I mean, what have you been able to do over the last 2 years?
Okay. Well, over the last 2 years, I have, year over year. Well, last year, I won't say that I increased my revenue, but I increased my volume. Okay.
Right.
So COVID was actually a great time for me. Like I went into it with a pipeline, a huge pipeline. I was like, I'm killing it this year. Like, 2020 is my year. And then literally 1 week later, it was all wiped out. I had to tell people that their offers are no longer on the table. I had to tell people that they were delayed on their start date. It was horrible.
Yep.
But once my clients, like 4 weeks, 3-4 weeks later, once my clients reconfigured what they needed to do, we were back in action. And, they needed help, right? Like they needed help on the price. So I didn't really care. I was like, what do you want? Like, I want to tinker with my business model too. And this will give me a chance to figure out like, what's our affordability? Like, where's our break-even point? What percentage is the right percentage? Because 20 and 25% is a lot for my customer base. So if I can reduce that somehow by trading off some other terms with you that makes it worthwhile for me, hell yeah, I'm going to give you that money back. Because you know what? Now you can use me twice. Right. And then again and again. So actually that was a really good time. So like in 2020, we wrapped up in 2019, right? So 2 years ago, 2019.
Mhm.
2019 was my best year. This
Mhm.
year, my best year is pacing my best year. But like after we worked together in 2019, it was nonstop. And I would love to tell you the percentage of revenue increase, but you know what, Donnie? It's like 500% because before I started working with you, I was in business for 6 months, but
Right.
I didn't have anything in the pipeline. So I know that the results that I generated, especially in the beginning, were due to your program. And then from there, I grew my LinkedIn network by like 6,500 people so far. The other day, yesterday, actually, I was talking to somebody and he said, he called me, I was, out of the blue. And he said, you know what, like, I'm trying to find this business development person. I'm struggling and, I'm looking at people in the market, in our industry. And there's one commonality between all of the people that I'm finding, and they're all connected to you.
Hmm.
And I said,
Love
well,
it.
that's your point. That's the point. And I was like, and you know what? I'm going to tell Donnie about it tomorrow. So, like those are like the more tangible things, like the revenue that we've generated, the amount of candidates that I'm able to reach. That's like huge,
Mhm.
being able to reach such a, wide range of candidates from different industries through the tools that you set me up with, and being able to connect with them and get them on the phone and have like a really good conversation with them.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear these results, and it's really you. I mean, you did the work, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I laid out the roadmap, but you did the work, and it's kudos to you because there's a lot to push through there.
I think like one thing in your program that you don't like talk about enough is you and what you're offering, because like the stuff that you gave me, like I'm not saying that's not valuable. It was incredibly valuable and it
Right.
changed my life. It changed my world. I have a digital strategy. I understand things about digital that I didn't know before because I was starting at ground zero, but now I'm not anymore. Like I have a really good digital strategy thanks to you. But what you did for me that I remember most was more so on my mindset. Like you weren't going to let me give up. Like you saw like a spark in me, and I appreciate that. And when I just, you were honest with me. Like, Candice, you're full of shit. You're full of excuses. And well, do you really believe that that's true? Like really making me face myself and ask myself, answer these questions to myself, and be honest with myself. And that's where I really took the most value from us working together, was like really how you helped me personally. I'm like forever grateful to you for that, because I needed that at the time. It wasn't, I didn't just need somebody to come and help me with the digital strategy. Like I needed a coach,
Yep.
like to push and to care and to, to motivate me and to, I think, like believe in me and help me to believe in myself. And like those are things that are intangible, but I think they make the most difference. Absolutely. I think that you should talk about that more, or we should talk, as your clients, we should be the people talking about that more.
Yeah, I
Because
appreciate that.
Person that says something like that.
Yeah, well, it's very humbling to hear, and I appreciate that feedback. And yeah, I mean, it's I don't really like to talk about myself in that way. It's but that, I mean, honestly, it's the impact that I love to deliver the most, because so many of us, and I've been there myself, and I go through those seasons as well where we're not as confident, or where mindset is, it's really where it's at. I mean, everything that I've done with my business and growth I've personally had is from my mindset, and being able to share the things that I learn and hearing things like this. I mean, it's honestly just humbling, and I really appreciate that feedback and sharing that. I was going to ask you what the most surprising thing was with working with me was, but would you say that's it, or?
No, I mean, the most surprising thing was that you had 4 kids and 1 more on the way. What are you doing, Donnie?
Yeah, that's so good. So good. Yeah, you were there right when we had the little one. So yeah, she's just turned 2 years old now. It's crazy.
Okay.
Yep. Crazy how fast time flies. But really inspiring stuff. Thank you so much for sharing your journey. Thank you so much for sharing, what it was like working with me and going through the program. Like I said, very humbling to hear what you just had to say there. I appreciate that. what are you excited about most now? What are you excited about moving forward?
Oh, the next phase of our business. So like we're ready to, start working on phase 2. Like we're still a startup. We're never not going to be scrappy. We're
Right.
always entrepreneurs. Like this is just our culture and who we're going to be. But really being able to see what comes next and knowing I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that we can make it happen. That's what's most exciting to me is like I'm going to manifest it.
Yep. I love it.
Because, you told me 2 years ago, manifest it. It'll come
Right.
to you. Manifest it, do some deep breathing and then focus. And
Right.
that's what we've done. And that's what we're going to continue to do. And I'm really excited.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. I absolutely love it. So for those that are listening here with us live, I mean, how can they connect with you? Where would be the best place for them to reach out and connect?
Yeah. Well, you can email me direct. I'm Candice, Candice, no A, at higherhouserecruiting.com. Or you could connect with me on LinkedIn, Candice Johnston. You can probably, those are the best 2 places. Or you know what? If you're a job seeker or an employer, you can visit our website. You could participate in our referral program, which pays $500 every time your referred candidate is placed by HireHouse, which is really cool, right? Because we know that an employee referral is your best source of hire. So we want to be able to compensate you for that. Or you can sign up for our job alerts. There's many, many ways for you to get in touch with us.
Right. Love it. Last thing I'll say here, Candice, is a lot of people are looking to have the same success that you're having. I mean, what is one piece of advice you can leave them with?
Implement.
Do it.
Implement. Don't just do the work, okay? Don't just get it all set up and not hit go. Implement it. It's not implemented until you do it. Until you start using it, it's not implemented. You can build it. If it's sitting there, it's not implemented. So
Yep.
And like, don't have the fear of, I wrote this guide and who's going to want to read it. Who cares? Who cares who wants to read it? Like you wrote it and you should be proud of it. Implement it. Like you've done something at this point that very few people have done. You signed up for the program, you've paid the bill, like
Right.
Implement it and
it
will work. It's like, I don't want to say it's a guarantee because I don't want to be on the hook for that, but it's a freaking guarantee. Okay. It will work. No doubt about it. And be creative. Be creative about how the tools work for you and your company.
Candice, thank you. Your story is inspiring. Loved working with you. Loved catching up today. Thank you for being on the show and being so open and honest and raw. Relevant Recruiter Group, we've got 2 more trainings coming up to you next Wednesday and next Friday. Until then, everybody have a great weekend. Candice, thank you again for being here and hanging with us on the show. We'll talk to you all soon.
Bye.